Hey everyone, it's Qcknd, and welcome to another episode of X-Files. So there is construction and stuff happening by my house and airplanes and things of that matter, so we're gonna take a walk and hopefully this all works out. Welcome to my neighborhood. So this episode of X-Files starts a couple years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I had just gotten out of a pretty serious relationship, my other serious relationship, and I just moved back in with my parents. I just decided to be straight edge. I was vegan for a little while, and I feel like these are all kind of traits that isolate you, especially from your other friends you've been friends with for a long time. So it goes without saying, I was feeling pretty lonely. So I was on Tumblr all the time. Tumblr has always been a place for me to prosper. Before that I had a Xanga. I'm just very inclined to blog. I love it. I love Tumblr. If Tumblr ever does me wrong, I will forgive it because I love it so much. So my Tumblr, I posted kind of a lot of pictures of myself and recipes, food, things like that, and I went on there to find people like me. Vegan, straight edge, tattooed, whatever, maybe liked Joanna Newsom, anybody like me. And I started talking to this one kid. And I remember feeling oh my god, is he talking to me? Because he was Tumblr famous. And what does Tumblr famous mean? It's kind of like being Instagram famous, but 5 years ago. A ton of followers. Whenever you would post a picture, it would get reblogged a million times. An ask box that is off the hook. This is Tumblr famous. So this kid started talking to me, and he was woo! He had all the coolest pictures, all the coolest piercings. He was vegan, he was straight edge, and he's from Boston. I enjoy a nice long distance relationship, don't get me wrong. When we started talking, it was kind of just first we would message each other on Tumblr, and the classic she liked my picture, he liked my picture, reblogging, anything of that nature. And then we finally exchanged numbers, so we would talk and text, and it was super fun, and we would exchange photos through Tumblr, whatever. And I think this was before Man Crush Monday, but we would just reblog each other's pictures, the classic heart eyes. I was feeling so awesome. I was oh my god, this guy has probably 1 million followers, low-key, and he's talking to me. Why would he? I don't even have a high-res photo. I'm not even cool. And he is chatting me up, girl. So I think the expression is starry-eyed. I was kind of blinded by his celebrity. And no, he wasn't a celebrity, but in my world, he kind of was. Because I was on Tumblr, and it's all that mattered to me. I was going to school full-time, lived with my parents. I was such a fucking loser. So if you were on Tumblr with 100 likes, whoo, doggy. It's starting to get a little complicated because of his celebrity. I get anonymous messages all the time from his fangirls, and that would kind of make me feel weird. Lots of are you guys dating? Have you guys ever met? Are you guys hooking up? Is it a long distance relationship? Does he call you his girlfriend? I would kind of kid with him oh man, that's a lot of pressure. All these girls are messaging me all the time. Remember one time he was well, if it makes you feel any better, sometimes I see pictures of your ex and I feel really bad about myself because he's really good looking and I don't think I look like him. And I was good thing you don't look like him. I wouldn't want to date his clone. That shit's over. But language like that kind of made me hesitant and made me feel bad. Because I was oh, poor him. He probably feels bad. He has these, shoes to fill. And honestly, my ex was, not far enough in the past for me to be if you had to talk about my ex, oh, okay. I'm sorry I said anything about all the girls who message me. You're right. That kind of made me feel a little hesitant and walking on eggshells if I had an issue with him, because I felt like, oh, he's so sensitive, he's like thinking about my ex, like. So we were talking and he lived in Boston. I kind of said that, and I had never been to Boston. I had recently just met my friend Alex. She lived in Richmond. I had gone to Richmond to meet her, posted all the photos, had so much fun. This is when he invited me to come to Boston. I never even thought about going to Boston before I even started talking to him, just because it never came up. I don't know. And he was like, you should come to Boston. Like, I've been to Philly before. Boston is only like a 6-hour drive. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I'll get the mega bus. Like, it only took 6 hours to get to Richmond. It took a long time, but no problem. Okay, we're at my coffee shop. So honestly, it wasn't that hard to convince me to visit. I mean, I felt like I was so lame, like I said before, and I was like, oh my god, Boston, like that'll be so fun. I had so much fun in Richmond meeting Alex that I was already still like riding those good vibes, and I was like, alright, I'll come to Boston. And it is not as cheap as going to New York or whatever on the mega bus. This was a couple years ago. So I had to take Bolt Bus to Boston. I believe Megabus goes there now. If they don't, I don't know. But Bolt Bus, Megabus you can catch really cheap. Bolt Bus has more of a flat rate, which can be great because Megabus's prices can spike, but wasn't great for me because I took Megabus to Richmond for like 20 bucks. And because I was just a full-time student, I don't know, spending like 50 bucks to go to Boston and back kind of hurt my pocket. And I was kind of waiting for young Romeo to offer to split the tickets with me, and it didn't happen. Okay, I'm at a public park and whoever sees me, whatever. So I bought the tickets to go, and it's my first time traveling like that far. I need to look this up, but I think it was like 10 hours. I feel like people fly to Boston. They don't really drive there. But I was still really excited. He was like so gorgeous, like so into what I was into. I was expecting like such a cool little weekend away. And he was like a little nerdy with piercings, a little starstruck. And when I get there, like, I have a story all about like taking the megabus. When I get there, I smell so bad and I'm like super embarrassed because I've been sweating on this bus for like 10 hours. The only pit stop was like at an Arby's, so I couldn't eat anything. I was starving and stinking, and I was like, oh my god, I'm about to meet this all-star boy. So I get off the bus and I'm waiting for him at the bus terminal. I don't have a smartphone just to like set the vibe, so I'm kind of just like patiently waiting, and this like scrawny little kid comes up to me, and it's him, and I'm like, oh no, you don't look anything like your pictures. But like, buyer beware, that's like the #1 thing people tell you when you meet people online in real life. But it was like cute. He was like really, really skinny, way skinnier than mama, with these like really big plugs and like nice hair. Like, I was like, okay, you're cute. And we started off with like a big hug and whatever. And he was like, hey, like, I just have to warn you that I raid with my World of Warcraft clan. So like, I hope that's okay. And I was like, what, are you like cracking this secret to me? Like, I know that you're like nerd boy and like, I don't know, like work in a comic book store. Like, I get it. And he was like, okay, like that was just like one thing I had to tell you. And I was like, okay, like cool. Like, let's get this party started. Take the trolley back to his house and it's super cool. Like, I'm taking in Boston and I love it. I love the trolleys. I love the sidewalks, the buildings. Like, it's a really old city. So it reminds me of Philadelphia, but it's different. It's cleaner. People are friendlier. Like, I was in awe. It's like, hey, like tonight, let's go to the grocery store, pick up some stuff you like, and we'll cook at home. And I'm like, oh, at home. I'm like, I don't want to say foodie, but like when I go to different cities, I love to chow down. So I thought that this was a cool change of pace. So we go to the supermarket, we're like flirting, meet each other for the first time. I don't know, throwing cups at each other. That didn't happen. The checkout, and there's a little confusion. So I'm like, oh, I'll pay. Cause I'm nice, he's hosting me. We get back to his house and he has roommates. And I don't know if this was like something I never asked or something he never told me, but he had a lot of roommates. Like probably 4 roommates in an apartment. And I'm more used to like in Philadelphia, like you and all your friends like pitch in for a house because things are pretty cheap around here. But Boston is a pretty expensive city. Him and his roommates all shared an apartment. And they had cats, and the cat was just like stinking up the place, could smell the cat in every room. The bathroom looked like 5 people lived there. The kitchen looked like 5 people lived there. But who am I to judge? I live with my fucking parents. And I'm just excited to be somewhere cool. Everyone was around the same age, everyone was really cool. So we cook up our dinner. Honestly, I feel like it was something instant that we made in the microwave. And we sit in his room. And his room is like, to paint a picture, a jail cell. But it's okay. What's my room? So he has just like a twin bed. And there's no living room in the apartment. It's all just separate bedrooms. So right away I realized like I'm not crashing on the couch. But I don't know. It's all fine. So he's like, hey, you know, we ate and it's time for me to raid. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, raid on World of Warcraft. And I was like, oh, the thing you mentioned. How long is that gonna take? He's like 2 hours. And I was like, do you have a TV? Like, and it was kind of late. City I didn't know. So I fell asleep. And I wake up the next morning and I'm like, that was normal. That's normal, it's fine. The next morning, and I'm like, hey, like, are we gonna get coffee? And he's like, oh, like, I'm straight edge. I don't drink coffee. And I'm like, well, I'm straight edge too, back then. And he was like, oh, well, caffeine is a drug. And I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, where am I? And I was like, okay, like, is there a coffee shop nearby? And he was like, I don't know. So I was like, do you want to, like, explore? Like, do you want to go somewhere and explore? We ended up going to this coffee shop that's, like, kind of by his house, and only after he had recommended Starbucks to me, and I was like, oh, like, we're in fucking Boston, like, there has to be a little indie spot somewhere. So we find this spot that's, like, kind of close to his house. I don't know if they offered, like, soy milk, if it was, like, a vegan coffee shop. It was just, like, somewhere we went. And I remember feeling, like, shit. I was like, can I buy you anything? And he's like, no. It gets worse, obviously. So I'm like, what are we gonna do today? Like, what do you like doing? And he was like, oh, I don't really know. As if to say, like, I don't ever leave my fucking house. So honestly, I ended up recommending everything. And I didn't have like Google Maps on my phone. We really just like walked around, and I don't have any previous experience with Boston. So I was like, I don't know, do you want to see Fenway Park? Like, I literally don't know. We see like Fenway Park. We go to like the Johnny Cupcake store because I was like into streetwear. And we also like, I don't know, like I go to like Chinatown, I think, for a minute. People are not appreciating what I'm doing right now. So we do like whatever is like my stereotypical idea of Boston, and we end up at the Starbucks. We go to a mall, and the mall is having an event, so like that is kind of cool. And I remember like I had Qcknd stickers made for my Tumblr. Just they said Qcknd, and they had a cat. I don't know if you've ever seen them, if you've been here a while. So I was like putting up Qcknd stickers, and that was like the only thing I knew to do that day. Other than the event that was at the mall, nothing really cool happened. I didn't have a ton of money to spend, so I was kind of just like, you seemed a lot cooler on the internet. Time comes to go home because we have to raid again. And I'm like, oh my god, with the rating, like, someone is in your city. Like, is there things you wanted to do? Like, when my friends come to Philly, there's still things I want to do. I'm not like, been there, done that. I'm like, let's fucking do stuff. And I am like a quiet kid. I'm shy by nature, but I am just feeling so underwhelmed and so like deceived by the coolness I thought this kid had that I start talking to his roommates, and I'm not like this. I don't know, dated people and I've never even met their roommates because I'm like, ugh, weird. So I talked to their roommates, and it's this couple, and they moved to Boston to create music, and they're awesome. They like play a little song for me. They have this like unique little keyboard instrument. They have a TV in their room. So they're like, do you want to play Super Smash Brothers? And I'm like, fuck yeah. I was put on this earth to play Super Smash Brothers. So we're all playing and stuff, and they recommend this restaurant to me where they're like, oh, they do deep fried vegan pizza. If you know what I'm talking about, please leave it in the comments below. So I'm like, oh my god, fuck yeah. Like, I was born to eat deep fried vegan pizza. Get together. Hey, we're gonna go get something to eat. Like, are you fucking rating? Like, so we wait, and he comes too. And I remember it being super weird. I feel like we went there, and he like, I don't know, knew the people behind the counter, but not in a good way. Like, do you have enemies, bro? I remember bonding more with his roommates than him. The third day comes, and I'm just like having the worst time. I can't even conceal it. And I feel like I can be a pretty nice person. I can understand if like, I can have sympathy for, oh, he stays inside on the computer all day, because so do I. I still felt like maybe he should have mentioned that instead of inviting me to his city. Hey, I stay inside all the time. Do you want to come over and watch me play World of Warcraft? No offense. It comes time for me to get downtown and catch my bus. And I remember like wanting to leave like 2 hours early. I was like, can't miss it. Because I just needed to get out. And I felt like he was coming in to like make a move on me. Like the old goodbye. And I was like, hey, we never talked about like maybe splitting my bus ticket. So I don't know, like, do you have like 30 bucks? And I remember he was like, oh, like, not on me. And I was like, there's an ATM. It's right there. So I had 10 hours on the fucking bus to think about what I was gonna say to him, because I felt like everything may have been a miscommunication, but it wasn't fair for me to go home and pretend that this like super Tumblr celebrity was like all that. Before, when I got home and was able to check the computer, he had like posted all this stuff on like Tumblr about me staying and everything. And when you say something on the internet about someone spending the night with you, things kind of get misconstrued. And per usual, I got all these messages from all these like girls asking like what happened and that I better not break his heart. Like, I sent him a text. And I was like, hey, you know, I know we talked about like maybe you coming to Philly and all of this, but I think I have to tell you that I don't know if that'll be a great idea. I didn't have fun. You played World of Warcraft the whole time. Like, and I'm down for like nerd culture. I'm down for like people having quirks. Like, it's probably hard for John to date me because I'm like, oh, like I can make a YouTube video out of that. But I also know the difference between spending time with company and like showing your host, like being a great host and showing your company a good time. And I also am a person whose friends live in faraway places. And even then, like when I went to Chicago, I was like, I'm gonna vlog the whole time. But the second I met Qcknd, we just fucking clicked. And I just needed to be with her the whole time and not my camera. So all of those kind of things showed me that either he cared more about World of Warcraft than me, and I didn't want to step in between him and his clan. This story sounds fake, but even when I told this to John, he was like, what the fuck? You know, I come back from Boston and people are like, did you do this, this, and this? And I'm like, no, I didn't go 5 blocks from the kid's house, except for when I got there and when I came back. And we didn't go out to eat, we went to the grocery store. Fortunately, I gave him the bad news and I kind of broke it off. And I don't really know if we were dating, but it kind of seemed like we were. or the image he was trying to portray of me on his Tumblr kind of seemed like we were. So that's when I had to give him the news. And I remember feeling so bad because he begged me not to. He was like, don't do this, don't do this. And I remember thinking, like, did you even have a good time? Because I couldn't tell. That was the time I went to meet my Tumblr crush, and he played World of Warcraft the whole time instead. And then when we got back, he thought that I had a great time. I asked for $30. I've never done that. So this is the X-Files. I've actually never heard of him ever again. I unfollowed him, and a lot of my like Tumblr friends kind of crossed over to Instagram, and I like found them all over again, and I've never found him ever again. So I don't know if he like changed his act, took out all his piercings, gained 20 pounds, moved to a different city. I don't really know, but after all that, I think both of us were just super embarrassed and maybe had no idea and thought that both being pierced and being vegan and being different levels of straight edge would bring us together. But really, we just didn't click. Let me know if this has ever happened to you, if you've ever met one of your Tumblr crushes and they turned out to be a dud, or if you guys really worked out and you're dating today. Because I met John on Instagram. I meet people off of the internet all the time. You guys are seriously my best friends. I love you guys, and stay tuned for whatever comes next. Sorry about the impromptu set. I'll let you know that everybody here thought that I was pretty weird. But that's okay. I don't give a fuck. Bye. Hey everybody, it's Qqcknd, and welcome back to our second episode of The X-Files. Now, if this is